The number of weather-related disasters has increased fivefold in the past 50 years. That's according to the World Meteorological Organization. On average, an event linked to weather, climate, or water hazard has killed 115 people every day since 1970. Although man has proved very effective at killing himself, there is still some healthy competition from Mother Nature. There are many potentially lethal species in the natural world, but when the planet Earth itself turns against mankind, the impacts of all of these combined are almost negligible. Throughout Earth's history, there have been many different kinds and sizes of natural disasters. While some of these occurrences have only resulted in minor harm, others have destroyed entire cities and brought an end to civilizations. Sometimes these calamities give way to others with disastrous outcomes. Global disasters, dangerous earthquakes, enormous tsunamis, destructive supervolcanoes, and climate catastrophes have scientists warned will soon occur. Come along as we explore the most catastrophic natural disasters on Earth, as well as the biggest disaster that is about to strike North America in 2024. The Central China Flood. Among the most devastating floods that China has ever seen was the Central China Flood of 1931. The Yellow, Yi, and Huai rivers, three of China's most important waterways, were all inundated. More than half of central China was submerged due to the severe flooding that hit the city. The Yangtze River surpassed its banks due to the combination of spring snowmelt and the more than 24 inches of rain that fell in July. Elevations were also seen in other major rivers, including the Yellow River. The Yangtze became visible as a massive lake or ocean. After the flood submerged about 70,000 square miles, the floodwaters reached as far as half of Scotland and the entirety of England. Because of how far the water traveled, the estimated number of persons affected by the flood was 25 million out of 52 million. The death toll was expected to be over 2 million. While considering this death toll, it is important to also consider the subsequent starvation, relocation, and disease outbreaks. It persisted into the summer of the subsequent year, and was also known as the Yangtze Huai Flood. Agricultural output dropped dramatically during this time, adding to the epidemics and starvation that plagued China. The Antioch earthquake, even though violent natural disasters have always been a part of human history, the death counts of the most ancient of these disasters are lost to history. On the Richter scale, the earthquake that hit Antioch was 7.0. It struck in 526 AD, affecting Antioch and Syria, which is today part of Turkey. It was one of the worst catastrophes that happened in 526. A total of 18 months passed following the quake without any further tremors. Between 250,000 and 300,000 individuals lost their lives, and numerous buildings were leveled. Even worse, a destructive fire broke out shortly after, adding to the devastation and mayhem. Society fell into anarchy as the regional administration became unstable. Because of the city's location on a complicated array of tectonic plates, modern-day Turkey is still vulnerable to earthquakes. The ancient city of Antioch stood at the exact geographic intersection of the African, Arabian, and Anatolian tectonic plates. Earthquakes are a probable outcome of vibrations caused by the plates rubbing against one another. The Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. In its time, the Indian Ocean tsunami was the largest natural disaster in modern history. The 2004 Sumatra Andaman earthquake, which measured 9.0 on the Richter scale, set everything in motion. Deadly repercussions for nations in South Asia, all the way to South Africa, resulted from the earthquake's lifting of the seafloor in the surrounding regions, which displaced the water. A huge tsunami caused by the earthquake swept over 14 nations in South and East Africa, displacing about 2 million people and killing an estimated 230,000. With a speed of up to 500 meters per hour, the tsunami was able to reach shore just 15 to 20 minutes following the earthquake, leaving locals with little time to seek safer ground. The tsunami wave crested at over 100 feet in certain locations, particularly in Indonesia, which was the country impacted the worst. An estimated $10 billion were lost in the earthquake and tsunami. Damage to infrastructure, loss of coastal vegetation and harbors, and extensive sand erosion occurred in these areas. Indonesia, however, experienced the larger weight of the tragedy but has since recovered and rebuilt its provinces of Aceh and North Sumatra. More people have been killed by this tsunami than by any other tsunami in recorded history, and it is regarded as the third biggest earthquake in the world since 1900. The 2010 Haiti earthquake. Among the three deadliest earthquakes in recorded history was the devastating 7.0 magnitude tremor that hit Haiti on January 12, 2010. Just northwest of Port-au-Prince, Haiti was particularly susceptible to destruction and casualties due to its position as one of the Western Hemisphere's poorest nations and its lack of experience with major earthquakes. The quake had an impact on up to 3 million people. There was a lot of uncertainty around the death toll figures. For example, in January 2011, Haitian officials revised the death toll from 230,000 to 316,000. Death tolls range from 160,000 to 180,000, according to a 2010 research in Medicine, Conflict, and Survival, with the USGS claiming even lower figures at under 100,000. These discrepancies are a result of the political bickering over official figures, as well as the fact that death tolls remain difficult to accurately calculate even in the current period. The Bola cyclone of 1970. What is now Bangladesh, formerly East Pakistan, was battered by this tropical cyclone on November 12th and 13th, 1970. According to the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale, the storm was a Category 4 major hurricane with wind speeds of 130 miles per hour at its strongest. Before making landfall, a storm surge of 35 feet caused extensive flooding on the low-lying islands that border the Bay of Bengal. An estimated 300,000 to 500,000 individuals lost their lives as a consequence of the storm surge and the inability to evacuate. In 1971, the National Hurricane Center and the Pakistan Meteorological Department published a report that recognized the difficulty of precisely calculating the number of casualties, particularly because of the large number of seasonal laborers who had flocked to the region to help with the rice harvest. The World Meteorological Organization has classified the Bola storm as the worst tropical cyclone ever recorded as of this video, and the damage it produced was estimated to be $86 billion. The 1920 Haiyuan earthquake. The size and intensity of the Haiyuan earthquake were the highest of any quake recorded in China during the 20th century. On December 16, 1920, an earthquake hit Haiyuan County in north-central China, trembling not only that county but also the provinces of Gansu and Shanxi. The official magnitude was 7.8 on the Richter scale, although China now says it was 8.5. Additionally, the reported casualties are not consistent with one another. While the United States Geological Survey put the death toll at 200,000, seismologists in China found evidence that it could have been 273,000. Of these, more than 30,000 perished in landslides caused by the region's abundant loess soils, a type of highly unstable, porous, silty sediment. The Yellow River flood of 1887. The Yellow River in China was built to restrict the river as it flowed through central China's agriculture in the late 1880s. but it was already perilously perched above most of the surrounding land. The river's elevation was raised as a result of the siltation of these dikes throughout time. In September 1887, the river overflowed its dikes and flooded 5,000 square miles of low-lying area due to torrential rains. Between 900,000 and 2 million lives were wiped off by this deluge, a California time bomb. Among the most vulnerable regions to the tectonic danger, the Southern California region is hit hard by the roughly 10,000 earthquakes that occur there every year. 1,000 seems like a lot, but in reality, most of them are little, and Americans don't even notice them. Just a handful of hundreds are larger than 3.0 magnitude, and only around 15 to 20 are larger than 4.0 magnitude. Notwithstanding, there are rumors that California is allegedly holding a time bomb that, if detonated, might unleash catastrophic catastrophe. The tectonic time bomb comes in the form of the San Andreas Fault, which sits through California, where the Pacific Plate comes face to face with the North American Plate. Boundaries between plates are often where earthquakes will occur, and the 746-mile San Andreas Fault is no different. Although geologists are understandably anxious about any plate boundary, the San Andreas Fault in particular causes them great distress. The 1906 San Francisco earthquake, which occurred when a fault ruptured, was responsible for the widespread devastation that the American metropolis suffered. Tragically, half of San Francisco's population was left homeless as the disaster leveled most of the city and killed around 3,000 individuals. The San Andreas Fault is sadly not an isolated incident, which is surprising given the gravity of the situation. One of the worst earthquakes in U.S. history, the Fort Tejon, occurred in 1857 when the San Andreas Fault ruptured in central and southern California. It is still quite difficult to forecast when an earthquake will occur, even with all the technological improvements in recent years. However, every couple of centuries, the San Andreas Fault probably triggers catastrophic and major earthquakes, according to experts. If these forecasts are correct, a devastating earthquake on the San Andreas Fault will happen soon. The United States Geological Survey website states, based on models taking into account the long-term rate of slip on the San Andreas Fault and the amount of offset that occurred on the fault. In 1906, the best guess is that 1.96 type earthquakes occur at intervals of about 200 years. Because of the time needed to accumulate slip equal to a 20-foot offset, there is only a small chance of about 2% that such an earthquake could occur in the next 30 years. A pothole in space. All forms of life on Earth rely heavily on the planet's magnetic field. It protects us from the harmful effects of the sun's rays and also helps with compass navigation and shows us the northern lights. Sunlight is essential, but too much of it would have disastrous consequences. Fortunately, a magnetic field exists within our bodies. The problem, though, is a pothole in space that exists in our magnetic field. It's not a physical dent, it's the South Atlantic Anomaly, or SAA. Our planet's magnetic field is weaker in this sky region, which extends from South America to Africa. Although this vulnerability does pose a problem for the spacecraft we have sent into orbit, it does not pose a threat to life on Earth. A much more serious vulnerability would be required to endanger the surface of the planet. As they travel around the Earth, spacecraft and satellites are surrounded by our magnetic field. Therefore, its protection is still useful to them. By removing it, you expose yourself to the sun's high-energy particles, which can create a cascade of technological issues ranging from minor hiccups to complete data loss and catastrophic component failure. What will it mean for us and our civilization? How will this impact the other living beings on our planet? There's ambiguity about the ramifications of a reversal. It has been speculated by some scientists that extinctions could be triggered by reversals. Increased solar radiation might be fatal for Earth's biosphere if the magnetic shield were to sufficiently decrease during a reversal. However, paleointensity data reveals that the shield remains visible and might not even get faint enough to be noticed during a reversal. In general, there is no proof that extinctions are related to reversals. The fate of our technological society in the event of a reversal is unknown. Solar flares, when intense enough, can distort Earth's magnetosphere, disrupting communications, electrical systems, and navigation. In the thousands of years it takes for the poles to straighten themselves out after a reversal, there is anarchy. It would mess with navigation systems that rely on compass bearings. Magnetoreception is a navigational tool used by many animals during their annual migration. Along the western coast of North America, gray whales may use magnetoreception to navigate. Solar storms have the potential to momentarily alter the magnetosphere, and a study conducted in 2020 discovered a link between solar storms and the beaching of gray whales. How vulnerable would whales and other magnetoreceptive animals be in the event of a geomagnetic reversal? You can't rule it out because of how problematic it is. Satellite monitoring stations often simply turn off their instruments before entering the SAA. Therefore, NASA has been closely monitoring this ding for quite some time, attempting to understand its behavior, its origin, and whether it indicates an impending catastrophe. The African Large Low Shear Velocity Province appears to be the source of the SAA, a massive subsurface reservoir of extremely dense rock. The African Large Low Shear Velocity Province weakens the overall magnetic field by disrupting the flow of molten metal in the outer core of our planet, which is the primary source of Earth's magnetic field. At least this area doesn't appear to be a portent of impending disaster. Our magnetic field appears to be intact. However, this may indicate that we should be prepared for something. There is speculation among scientists that the SAA portends the impending reversal of Earth's magnetic field, an event that is theoretically possible, but would take hundreds of thousands of years, and would undoubtedly have far-reaching effects on our electrical and communication infrastructure. Until we get a firm grasp on what caused the crater in the sky, NASA will keep an eye on the SAA. Until then, it's possible we'll have to repeatedly power cycle our satellites. A huge planet-killer asteroid. Many works of science fiction have explored the possibility of an asteroid striking Earth. Deep Impact, Armageddon, Lucifer's Hammer, and countless more stories and films revolve around the idea of an impact, or, more specifically, humanity's efforts to avert one. But the idea of an asteroid crashing into Earth isn't just science fiction. It's science fact. The Asteroid Watch at the California-based Jet Propulsion Laboratory of NASA is designed to identify and monitor asteroids and comets that the government predicts may approach Earth in the near future. Only in December 2022 did 5 asteroids show up on the Asteroid Watch dashboard. 2 of them were thought to be about the size of a commercial jet. By the end of that year, NASA had learned that asteroid 7482, 1994 PC1, was 2.5 times taller than New York City's own Empire State Building. On January 18, 2022, during its closest approach in 200 years, it nevertheless safely flowed by Earth at a distance of 1.2 million miles. An asteroid that appeared to be heading straight for Earth in the next several decades was found by planetary scientists in 2004. It was assigned the asteroid designation 99942. and proposed the name Apophis after a villain from the TV series Stargate, which alludes to myths from ancient Greek mythology concerning a serpent that posed a danger to the Egyptian deity Ra. After Apophis was found, a great deal of complex math was done, since, according to orbital mechanics, it appeared highly probable that this space rock would one day be directly in Earth's path. Although its impact on Earth was uncertain, it appeared that Apophis would encounter our planet in 2036. After slipping through a gravitational hole close to our planet, which would slightly alter its orbit, people started keeping a careful eye on Apophis's orbit, since it was a terrifying prospect. What little is known about it suggests that on April 13th, 2029, it will pass quite near to Earth, potentially triggering a collision. When Apophis flies by Earth at 3,187 miles per hour, it will be closer than several of the geosynchronous communication satellites on which our reliance depends. The estimated diameter of Apophis is nearly 1,000 feet, and its kinetic energy is 500 megatons of TNT. Its irregular shape and rather dark appearance shouldn't prevent the naked eye or a telescope from seeing it as it passes Earth. Some predictions put the Southern California coast within striking distance of Apophis. If this were to happen, the west coast might be submerged up to about 84 inland, but the subsequent tsunamis would be absolutely devastating. Although the casualties may not be in the thousands, the economic and environmental impacts would be enormous. Any asteroid above 0.6 m in size is considered a planet killer. Should such an object reach Earth, the effect would be disastrous to life as we know it, with dust and toxins thrown up into the atmosphere where they would stay for years. Apocalyptic asteroids threatening Earth in the present day are a terrifying reality. Nothing kills more people in a short amount of time than a natural disaster, even more so than war and epidemics. A natural disaster can kill more people more rapidly and without discrimination than any other human-caused event, with the possible exception of a nuclear war. It only takes a split second for hundreds of thousands of people to die, and the subsequent aftermath can be just as deadly. The fact that natural disasters might overwhelm our technology and leave us helpless to prevent their devastation is one of the most horrifying aspects of these events. The only silver lining may be the significant improvement in our ability to foresee catastrophic disasters, which has allowed us to save countless lives. Unfortunately, this is not always the case. And even in the most developed nations, we can be caught off guard with devastating consequences.